Jesus is the answer for the world today.
Hello, family. Pastor Lalo from Christian Pentecostal Church, and today I want to talk principles. We've been talking about the holiness of God, and we're in Genesis chapter 14. In Genesis chapter 14, we see an account of a war that occurred between 4 versus 5 kings, without getting into too much detail. And we see in that 2 of the kings were the kings from Sodom and king from Gomorrah. We see that they lost that battle, right? They basically rebelled against the king that they've been serving. The king came with his king friends, right? And they came and subdued them. They lost the battle. And in Sodom and Gomorrah losing that battle, the kings that came, they took of the spoils of Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know that earlier Lot, Abraham's nephew, had moved there. So they also took Lot as captive as well. So now we see in verse, verse 13. We see in verse 13 of Genesis chapter 14 that one who had escaped the battle comes and tells Abram, because at this point he wasn't Abraham yet, he was Abram, comes to tell Abram, hey, this is what happened. And Abram gets up with the armed men of his house, the trained men, it says, of his house. He got up and he took them. There were 318 of them, and he pursued after them. And he split them up at night, and he defeated these kings, and he rescued Lot and took up all the spoil. Now he comes back, and we see that, okay, he's coming back, and he's met by Melchizedek, and Abram gives a tithe, or 10% of what he took, to Melchizedek. And then the king of Sodom comes along. And the king of Sodom says, hey, no, take all the spoil, take everything, just give me back the people. And here's what I want to talk about. This principle that Abraham recognized. And he says it in verse 22. So actually, I'm going to track back a little bit, right? And we go from verse 21. It says, and the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons and take the goods to thyself. 22. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So here we see Abram understood something, that no, I will not take anything of this because it's not mine. It's not mine to take, lest you take the glory and say, because I took from what is yours, although I rescued it from the enemy, but because I took what is yours, the king of Sodom could say that I, king of Sodom, had made Abram rich. It said, I have lifted up my hand to the heavens, to the Most High God. And when I see that, I see, like, I lift my hands open. See, I will receive of the Lord nothing more, nothing less. No one else, but I will receive of the Lord. Okay, we see that. That is an amazing principle. To know that my blessing comes from God. I will not search for it myself. I will not let any man get the glory for it. Okay, chapter 15, we see the covenant. Okay, chapter 16, in 15 we see the covenant. We see God come and bless Abraham and establish a covenant with him. 16, we see here that Abram still established that he has no heir. And Sarai comes and says, I have no children. Here, take Hagar, my handmaiden, and go in unto her, and so that she can give you seed. In the covenant, God had established that Abram, from your seed will inherit this land. Okay, so Abram, what's puzzling to me, right, as I read this is, and this is something we're all guilty of, is based on scripture. We see here that Abram understood the principle that I will let nobody get the glory for what belongs to God. My blessing will come from God. By him saying that it is he who will make me rich. You cannot say you made me rich. But in this instance, Abraham decides to take matters into his own hands and hearken unto the voice of his wife. And he says, I will gain a seed for self. I will gain an heir for myself. Okay. Then in 17, God comes and God reestablishes his covenant with Abram. And it is here we see that Abram's name is changed from Abram to Abraham, and Sarai's name is changed from Sarai to Sarah. And it is here we see that God establishes his covenant, and his covenant is cut into, or it's established into the flesh of Abraham. That's where we have circumcision. See, if I say with my mouth that no one can take the glory for what it is that God will do, no one can say that, hey, it's because I did this thing for you. That's why you are blessed. That's why you are this. That's why you are that. Abram understood that principle, but it wasn't really clear until Abraham came into the picture. Because when God came and God tells him, no, your wife will bear a son and your heir will come from there. It was when God did it his way so that no one could get the glory. See, as human beings, we think that, hey, I'll do it this way. Well, God said this, so I'm going to do it this way because that's what he most likely meant. Let me help him out. But here we see the holiness of God, and no one can take the glory. Here God came and he did the impossible so that nobody said that it was just naturally possible. No one could say that, because you just did X, Y, and Z. No, this covenant had to be done by God, for God, through God's means. That is why we see that Abraham, at 100 years of age, and Sarah, at 90 years of age, brought forth Isaac. And it was nothing more than a miracle, or nothing short, rather, of a miracle. And in that, God received all the glory. And Abraham learned that, again, that principle rang true. No one else can say, I did this. Sarah couldn't say, I did this because I gave you my handmaid. Hagar couldn't say, I did this because I conceived. It was God. And let's let that ring true for us even today. Let no man take the glory. If God has promised you a thing, rest sure on his promise that he will do it and only he will receive the glory. When it seems that there's a potential for man to get the glory, be aware, be wary of it. Only God. Now, I'm not saying that, everything must happen in the miraculous, but I'm saying recognize in all things that it is God that deserves all the glory. It is God that deserves all the credit. All the honor belongs to him because he is holy and he will do things as he has ordained it for it to happen, not as we picture or envision it. God bless you. And I pray that we will hold tight to this principle and we will live and make it a practice, not just a principle. God bless you. Have a blessed day.